Hello and welcome to The Habit Architect. I'm your host, Michael Cups. Thanks again for joining us. And remember, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, LinkedIn, or you're listening on Spotify or Apple, do hit the favorite button, forward it to a friend. That's how we grow, and we appreciate anytime you can say, hey, this is an interesting listen to, and you send it to your family or your friends. So thank you very much for doing that. Today we're going to talk to what I consider a powerful woman. She's really impressed. I had the opportunity to meet her probably a month or two ago at a luncheon, and we kind of picked up conversation from there. And I'm so impressed with how she conducts her business, and more importantly, how much business she's doing across a lot of different channels. And it's really exciting because of the way that things are happening today. A lot of people work in multiple jobs, and when I say that, it's maybe not multiple jobs, but it's they have a job and they're doing a side hustle, or they have a job and they're doing some volunteering, or they're maybe participating in a nonprofit. And there's a lot of things going on in general, and keeping that in order about where you focus and when you focus on certain things. Her name is Nancy Henriquez. She's going to join us. She has founded businesses. She has bought businesses. She has grown businesses from zero and up and built communities and so on. It's really fascinating to me to see how she is continuing to evolve, not only herself, but her business. So without further ado, let's bring Nancy from backstage on, and we'll let her introduce all of the things that she has been running and doing. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Very good. It's great to see you again. I'm so glad you could take time to visit with us. I know you've got a lot going on. So, and you may have heard that introduction. I'm so impressed with the way that you run your businesses, and you have a big acquisition that you're part of now, and that's maybe not public yet, but we'll talk about a little bit about that and how it supports your business. But why don't we start with just you introduce yourself, because I think you can do better justice than I could.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is amazing. And Zelda is leaving her office there for those that can see on video. My little dog has, she's always along my side, so she just left her office.
There you go. So went to get coffee.
Yeah, she went to get coffee. Exactly. Bring me a cup, please.
Yes.
No, so thank you again for having me. I'm Nancy Henriquez, for those that don't know me. And so I have been an entrepreneur since very young. Although didn't have a roadmap per se, I would say I'm like many in the IT world that have started an IT services-based company. You start because you love the technology and you want to help people, and then you become an accidental entrepreneur. That is exactly what happened to me. And slowly but surely, I grew one business, sold it, started another because I can't help but torture myself. And did it again, basically sold it, grew it, sold it, and then had the opportunity to then work for a few other companies where I got to scale in multiple different ways. I got to grow communities within the managed service provider space, and it's been quite a journey for sure.
That's fantastic. And I don't want to get too personal, but I mean, I think you mentioned that your family is originally from El Salvador, and they moved to the U.S. I mean, are you second generation, first generation?
I'm first generation.
Nice.
I am first generation. Yes. I've had the privilege to be born in this country, but the same privilege of being so close to my roots that it has been embodied in who I am 100%.
Yeah, and I only mention that because I think I love that story that you guys moved here, and you're not just finding a job, you're building businesses, you're employing more people. It's fantastic, and that's what I just love about that heritage of your story. But I'm so impressed. One thing I didn't mention, and you didn't mention either, you've also written a book, so you're an author too. So
I have, exactly. Yep, I have written a book right behind me on my shoulder. It's called Break Fix to Breakthrough. It was a collection of experience that I got to put on paper and be able to help others that either can relate to my story or have been where I was, and be able to help them with some of the mistakes and some of the lows that I had in life, and be able to learn from that. So one of the things as you mentioned, my family is from El Salvador. I like to say that I come from an entrepreneurial family, although not formal. Right. So
Yeah.
my grandmother was illiterate. She didn't learn how to read or write. She didn't have the access to school in that way. But talk about side hustles. That
Mm.
woman was not only raising kids, but she was lifting up a community in her way. And she had a little store at some point in time, just selling different types of supplies. She would sell cheese that she would make, like homegrown
Wow.
cheese.
Nice.
Um, and foods and things like that. And so I think that I inherited a little bit of that. And as I tell her and my family, with the language that I know and able to have, the education that I've been able to have, the access that I have been able to have, how can I not
Yes.
do more than what she was able to do with what little she had?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we underestimate sometimes the value of what we learned from our grandparents, our parents, that, they were the original problem solvers, right? They figured out ways to manage what they had to do to keep the family, to keep the community, as you said, with your grandmother. And I'm so thankful for that in my life, because I grew up on a farm and we had to do stuff, right? And I think that in the age of AI, and I want to talk to you about AI in a little bit, but those problem solvers are going to be really the innovators, I think, because they know how to solve problems. And now it's not just saying AI for AI's sake. It's here's how we're going to use it in this solution to solve that problem. And I look forward to talking to you about that too. But I want to start though with, and then I want to get into MSP too, because I know that's where you exist as well. But I mean, how are you managing all that? How do you say, okay, this is what I'm going to spend on this one, this is what I'm going to spend on this one? How are you doing that?
That's a great question. It's really funny and interesting because when we met during that luncheon, we had a conversation about ADHD.
Yeah.
And I think that ADHD has become a superpower for me in that way, where
Love that.
I like to say that I'm firing on all cylinders. So I do have blocks of time where I dedicate to each thing. But the other side to that is I just don't sleep. Oh, I kid. It really is. And I teach this a lot in coaching, right? Where it's all about delegation. It's knowing your strengths, and sticking to what your strengths are, and then being able to delegate from that, finding partners that can help it. Yeah, can jump in and help in multiple ways and areas that allow you to do a lot more with the limited time that we all have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm glad you said that. I do applaud that ADHD can be a superpower, but I think delegation is one of the things that people struggle with, especially in your case. You own a business and you're expanding that through acquisition and just general, organic growth. And it's so easy for owners and CEOs to just say, well, I'll do it. And because they know it and they have the domain knowledge, and certainly they're qualified to do it, but should they is a real question that people should ask. And not many people talk about delegation as being a superpower, but I think it is. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's trusting people to do what you need to do, and you just get there faster. Right? You can properly delegate.
It's interesting. Just yesterday, I had someone make a post or comment on a post that I had made where they said, I am terrible at managing people. And I said, but I'm sure that you are prompting your AI. So if you are prompting your AI, it's the same way to, being able to delegate to people. You have to prompt them, you have to guide them, you have to put guardrails, you have to then, train it, and you have to then retrain or correct wherever you need. And so if you think about it in the same way, you're doing it. And for some reason, it's easier for you to think about when it comes to telling an AI what it is that you want, the instructions that you want from them. But it's a little bit harder for people. And his response was, I hadn't thought about it that way, so I'm going to now think about framing it in that fashion. I said, well, good.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, let's get into the MSP business. So for what if people, I don't know if I have a lot of MSP, people that watch the podcast, but it's a managed service provider, and essentially that's a business. And you can probably explain it, that helps other businesses manage all their IT stuff. Is that fair to say, or maybe you could say it more elegantly?
Yeah. I like to say it is like having an IT department that is just outsourced,
Yeah.
right? So everything from your help desk. So when something is broken, they are helping. They're jumping on and helping in that way. But more so when it comes to a managed service provider, it's the proactiveness of being able to manage all of the computers, the environment, so that those problems are less, seen less,
Yeah.
and of course protected as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and so there's a lot of MSPs out there, and maybe they specialize in security or desktop or things like that. But I mean, you obviously have run a successful MSP, and you've grown it, and you sold it. Then you're building another one, and you're making an acquisition that helps that. I mean, so what was the breakthrough moments for you in your business that, and maybe they're all in the book. You can say that, but maybe you could highlight it for us.
They are. But I say that there's definitely a few key things that came from that. And one, the first thing was my mindset. I had to change my mindset from a reactive mindset to a proactive mindset, especially going into a proactive business where we're wanting our clients to be proactive about their technology, but yet our leadership mindset is stuck in a reactive mode. And
Mhm.
so that was the very first thing where I realized I need to change how I'm thinking, even how I'm handling myself. And my leadership, that goes to delegation. That was the next thing, which was
Yeah.
how do I then, make sure that I am properly delegating? I have to let go in order to grow, which is
Yeah.
that saying that a lot of people say. But that it's so hard when you start the business, and I know many business owners can probably relate to this. You start a business, it's your baby, it's you
Yeah.
put so much energy and love and thought into it, that it is hard to then trust someone and let go of being able to have some help. But if
Yeah.
you don't do that, then you can't focus on the right things in order to then be able to operate more efficiently.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
was, biggest thing for me there. I would say the second breakthrough was community. It was having mentors, coaches, just peers that we continued to talk about what was going on within our businesses. I honestly believe that you cannot grow a business on your own.
Right.
There's no way. And so having a community that you can rely on, that can help you, get out of a pickle when you're in one, or
Yep.
can spark an idea when you are so immersed in what you're doing, it changes the game for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those two things. Being proactive and thinking about community are two things that actually go hand in hand, because you're going to see, if you're involved in a community, you're going to see ideas, you're going to hear thoughts, you're going to hear bad stories and bad examples of where you don't want to be, from good examples to where you want to be and you aspire to be. So I think that those two are interlinked, and that's fantastic. I'm curious what you think about AI coming into the MSP business. I mean, because AI allows you to be proactive, because you can start listening to signals you couldn't listen to before. You can think further ahead, things like that. But it also, I mean, like you said, sometimes running an MSP business is a reactive business. So how is AI influencing that business?
Yeah, great question. So I am the type of person that I look at, I look at the landscape as a whole. I look at what's happening in this area of business, because that may impact and affect what's happening here in my business. Several years ago, I started to see the convergence of IT and HR in
Mm.
large enterprises. And when I started to see that happening, I was like, okay, it's only a matter of time before that trickles down and reaches small business. And what is the reason? Why is that happening in larger enterprises? Well, now you bring on AI agents that are coming into play, right? And all of a sudden, IT, who's dealing with technology, is now needing to also train people on using AI, or how to govern it, right?
Yep.
And so, many different aspects of this were just converging. And so I had that idea, or that thought of, this is going to impact the MSP space sooner rather than later. And are we prepared as technologists to also be able to manage people? Because once we have the AI in tune to what it's needed, now we have to really tune it up to how humans function, and to be able to assist in those ways. And so that's where, for me, it was like, okay, this is much bigger than the last wave of technology that was coming, that was emerging, like moving things to the cloud and things like that. This was going to be completely different and change the game. And then, of course, how I use AI personally has been creating that second brain. I named her Claudia because she's based on Claude. And then in Spanish, it's inteligencia artificial, so it's IA instead of AI, and so that's Claudia.
Yeah, that's Claudia. That's awesome. That is so awesome. I want to talk about Claudia as well. I think you're right. That the intersection of humans and agents. I mean, if you read a lot of the press, it's how AI is going to replace humans and blah, 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 blah. And there's so much of that out there. But what's really going to be happening is there's going to be a blend of these things that work together. And I think you're right. That insight that HR and IT are going to be partners on this more than they probably ever imagined is probably the most astute observation, because it is happening. And there are some technologists that think, well, we can just do away with humans, and then there's the humans that say, it's going to be a blend. And I applaud you for making that intersection. I'm sure your customers like that too, because I talk to a lot of small businesses. As you know, Enterprise Diagnostics does kind of the exit readiness. And when you start looking out a few years, and if you want to value your business in a way that you can sell it at a premium, the CEO particularly has to start thinking bigger. But there's so many little things along the way that have to change or are changing that make you more competitive. So you've hit on a bunch of amazing stories that say you have to delegate to get better, right? You said it's something to grow. Give up to grow.
You got to let it go. Yeah,
let it go to grow. Yeah, and that's so true. I really think that's spot on. So, do you think that MSPs are early adopters of AI, or are they laggards, or not sure yet?
They're humans. They're humans. I think there's a spectrum, just as much as any other business. And I think that it's hilarious. I find it hilarious when we're having similar conversations, and I'm coming across some that are resistant to AI just as much as some other normal people are resistant to AI. And then there's those that are the early adopters. They're jumping on board. They have multiple agents deployed. They're helping their clients deploy multiple agents as well. And they're orchestrating at this point an entire fleet of AI agents in multiple ways. And then there's those that are just, really just trying to get their head above water and not able to think about what AI is actually able to do, or how to even leverage it to help customers and things like that. So we've got the gamut, I think. And so I think that that's part of the fascinating aspect of where we are in time today, is that because of these different pendulum swings, there's so much room for us to figure it out. And you're right. I think that it is going to be a blend of things. It's going to be an intersection of human and technology like never before. And it's just a matter of, whether managed service providers will be able to help manage that technology for their customers just as much as they're managing the rest of the infrastructure and everything else.
Yeah, in that respect, it's a huge opportunity for MSPs as well, I think. So now you're making this huge acquisition, and we can't mention it by name, but it's related to the MSP community. It's not I don't think it's an MSP, but so tell us a little bit about whatever you can share at this point.
Yeah, it's a backup and disaster recovery business. And it is, you know, one of those things that happen out of, I think sometimes divine timing. So this business is a legacy business. It's been around for about 20 years, working with MSPs already. And so when it was brought to me, actually, at first I was like, it's a backup business. It's a
Yeah.
commodity. I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
But when they told me just take a look at it, and I saw that it's MSPs that are reselling it currently, I immediately knew, okay, this is meant to be, because that's my world.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I love to help MSPs grow their businesses. I've been doing it through coaching. I've been doing it through community building. And
Yeah.
so this is now another opportunity for me to be able to do that. And I wholly believe in the fact that if I help others grow, I grow with them. And
Yeah.
so that it's a natural outcome of just being able to grow together. And so that's that, this business is, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to growing it, and
That's
to seeing
fantastic.
where we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you on when it's public, and we'll talk more about that, hopefully. So Claudia is an interesting example. I know you're part of the Anthropic partner program. I'm not sure if there's a formal name for it, but you're part of the Anthropic. So you're learning and working with them to build solutions for your customers and your own self. And Claudia is one of those functions. We had a guest a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and he had built a second brain using Obsidian and some other things. And it was for, when you described yours, it's like, hey, they're doing the same things coming from different angles. So tell us a little bit about Claudia, because I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, so Claudia started off as my chief of staff and has continued to develop. Now she fully, I think, more second brain is definitely more accurate of a description. She's doing the menial tasks, everything from triaging my inbox, my calendar, managing my calendar, and now I was laughing the other day because she was yelling at me, and I say yelling at me because I've given her my own personality.
Uh-huh.
And so she's now coaching me on time and my
Ah,
capacity, and alerting me on certain things. And so I'm having her track not just projects that I'm managing, update me on certain things. And she's got this beautiful dashboard available for me. But beyond that, I have her telling me things like sentiment in meetings and conversations, red
yes.
flags that I should be looking
Yep.
out for. So she really has become
Yeah.
almost a second brain.
Yeah.
And my oldest, I have a 20-year-old son who is very much against AI and continuously tells me, I'm sorry, mom, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, it's okay. It's okay. It's not for you. It's cool.
I hope that someday I can sit down with you and you show me how Claudia works, because I've started building mine, but it's not near as advanced as yours. But what I really think is interesting is you started the show talking about ADHD being a superpower, and what this technology actually has the ability to do is help that, right? Because you shouldn't have to remember every detail, right? You should. I mean, now we can get there together in a different way, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity. By the way, we have a 25-year-old, and she is anti-AI as well. So there's something about that group of people that are like, hey, wait a minute, and we
Yeah,
need that.
it's the
We need
water that
those.
it's using. Yeah.
We need people that'll tap the brakes on some of the other stuff. But it is an interesting thing, and I'm really fascinated by what you're building, and I think it's important because I think people are wondering where it affects them and how can it help them. It's not just get a Copilot license from your company, right? I mean, I think that's almost more disturbing because people don't know what to do with it. But there's a huge opportunity for us all as individuals to figure out where it fits in our lives. It's not for everybody, but where it does fit, and it can take over some of those things that will help you just do more and be better. And I think I wrote a book on time management and priority management, so it fits in my world. But I really do believe it's where you put your attention is where your life is, right? And if you're putting your attention on things you don't really enjoy, then you're kind of wasting time, if you will. So give it to somebody or something that does that, and you can put your attention on things you care about, right? And it's a huge
Exactly,
opportunity.
100%. My 20-year-old would tell me, "You're going to lose your critical thinking, mom."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's
Yeah.
because of the way that I am leveraging Claudia. She's enhancing my critical thinking. She's a
Exactly.
bouncing board for me. She's
Yeah.
allowing me to, like you said, kind of remove some of the tasks from my brain that I don't need to be paying attention to, and can focus on the things that I should be paying attention to.
Yeah, well, the neural energy we have to spend to multitask is really costly to our bodies, right? I mean, in our brain. And if you can, I just think that actually gets that fuel back into your brain, because if something, you can just rely that it's taken off. Your delegation theory. When you can delegate it and not worry about it, your brain can focus on the things that you really want to think about. And so I agree, but I also understand your son's point of perspective, and we have a lot of sci-fi movies about AI taking over the world and stuff. So there's a lot of that out there, but I appreciate that. So you got Claudia, you've got the book, you've got MSP Unplugged. I saw something about a conference or something that you were picking some music for. Is this something that's coming up on your horizon?
It is, yes. TechCon Unplugged is the annual conference that MSP Unplugged hosts. It's September 17th through the 19th in Chicago. And it's, one of the coolest things about it is that it's a room full of MSPs, peers, that have come together and put together the agenda, the content, and the conversations that are going in. So it is, I would say, truly a conference of giving and sharing, and knowledge share like no other.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, good luck with that show as well. And we're up against the time, but I do ask, and I'm afraid to ask this question because we already talked about Claudia, but we ask every guest a question at the end. It's like, what are you going to take off your plate and give to AI in the future? And obviously with Claudia, you're doing a lot of that, but is there anything that stands out that was something you do and that you're going to hand off?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot that I'm already handing off, but I would answer that in the sense of, now I'm looking at what can I take off from my employees and hand to AI. I truly believe that every employee should probably be paired with an AI agent at this point in time, of Claudia of their own. And so that's what I'm looking into now, is how can I make my employees' lives easier and have them focus on more higher value functions than the tasks that they're doing now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. And I agree with you. That is the next wave, is how do we assist people to do something, to do more, and it's not to cram more work into it. It's to do the work that fulfills them as well. So that's great. There's so many more things that we could talk about. I hope you'll come back and join us again and talk about this, and especially after the acquisition, so you can share some more information about that, because I'm really interested in the mechanics of what you're going to do with that, and the to create value over time. So that's awesome. So thank you so much. We posted the various websites for Sibyl Consulting and the book, etc. And we'll post more of that later. If you have any questions for Nancy, please put them in the chat, and we'll make sure she gets them and answers them even if it's later on. So thank you so much.
Thank you again so much for having me on, Michael. This has been a great conversation. I love that. And you know what? When it comes to building habits, what you can do one thing at a time, empower yourself, and absolutely, delegation allows you to do that even more.
I think so too. Well said, Nancy. Thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to tune in next week as well, and do like and share, and check out enterprisediagnostics.ai, who's one of our sponsors, or timebandit.io.